Hello, and welcome to the Color Whisperer Show, where we talk about all things home and healing. So, today I want to talk about new beginnings. Now, sometimes new beginnings are scary. Have you ever said, "Oh, I'd love to go do that, but I just don't want to do it by myself"? I know for a long time, I was like, I didn't like going to restaurants by myself. And then I got single, and well, if I want to go out to eat, I'm going to go by myself. And I found a few restaurants that were a little bit more friendly to that than others. And uh, it's not a big deal anymore. One of my favorite restaurants nearby, they were so good to me during COVID. And even still now, they'll look at me, Jeanette, you've had a really hard day. I'm like, uh-huh. What kind of wine do you want? Sometimes they'll even give it to me for free, which is really super nice. But during COVID, they come up, Jeanette, you need a hug, don't you? I really do. And they just give me a big hug, and it meant so much to me. So it really kind of was like my cheers. I'd go in, and people like, oh, hi, Jeanette. I was just there the other night, and it was Mother's Day, and they were really, really slow. And I was sitting outside, and they were like, oh, she's mad at you because the manager. I went in to go check on my food because it'd been a while, and I'd seen they were really busy, so it didn't really phase me too much. I had nowhere else to be, so it was cool. I was comfortable, happy, and and so the manager comes out and she says, they kept telling me you were mad. You were mad. And she ain't mad. She's been coming here for a really long time. I'm like, no, wasn't mad. Like, just want to make sure I'm not forgotten, but not mad. And so anyway, I got my food pretty much right away after that, which was awesome. So anyway, new beginnings. A lot of times new beginnings make us get out of our comfort zone. Maybe maybe it's something you're just afraid to do by yourself. Now, this week, I had two really wonderful experiences. I think it's really good for us to get out of our comfort zone every now and then. It just opens up a whole new world for possibility of who we are. So, one thing I did this week was the silk ropes. It's an acrobat thing. You may have seen them. And then there's a hammock. It's a silk hammock, and you do these acrobats. You go upside down and you spin around, and so much fun. Oh my gosh, you might have seen it at Cirque du Soleil, something like that. And it was something I thought I always wanted to do this. I always wanted to do this, and I saw an advertisement for it. I'm like, oh, I'm gonna go do this. This looks like so much fun. So I went by myself. I had Frank. Is anybody going with you? No, me. I don't need a buddy for this. There's an instructor. There's going to be other people there. I'm fine. So I went and I did it. It was so much fun. Now I got to tell you, the spinning got me got a little nauseous. I wasn't really feeling great stomach wise before I went, but let me tell you, it was bad when I left. And it wasn't super bad. I shouldn't tell you because if it really was fun, I would do it again in a minute. I think I ate something I shouldn't have eaten that day, and I would not. Just be a little bit more careful. Maybe go get one of those motion sickness things that you can put on your wrist. And so that was really, really cool. And I got done and I was like, I didn't know if I could do it, but I thought, I'm going to go try. What's the worst thing that can happen? I sit there and I don't do it, which I didn't do. I was able to do all of the tricks. And, they want you to come back. So they're going to teach you things that they know you can succeed at so that you do come back and you learn the next step. So anyway, it was a lot of fun. And then last night, a friend talked me into doing a pole dancing lesson. Now, when I was younger, I had a friend who had a back room of their house, and there was all kinds of games and toys and stuff like that. And he had a pole. And he said, oh, everybody that came over the house tried it. And so I spun on the pole. Now, I didn't know this, but the pole spins. So, I didn't know what I was doing, but I just played on it for a few minutes and thought, well, this is really cool. I could see how this could be a lot of fun. But you've got to know how to do it and what to do. And there's ways to keep the pole spinning. And it's a lot of muscles at work. I'm sore today, let me tell you. But it was so much fun. And so, am I ever going to go be a real pole dancer? Oh, hell no. That's not but it was just fun to get out of my comfort zone and do something totally different. And the friend that I did go with a friend on this one. And one of the things we like to do with each other is get each other out of our comfort zones. So another thing we've done together is axe throwing. Now, I don't know wherever you are in the world or the country, but here in LA, that's become a big thing. And so I said, let's go try axe throwing. I had a little bit of anger I wanted to get out. It was a great way to get out some anger. And so we went axe throwing together, and it was definitely more out of her comfort zone than mine. I actually was pretty good at it. I was surprised. But we did it. And so she's definitely a fun friend to go out with, because it's like, okay, she gets me to do some of those things that I say, well, I would do it, but not by myself. And vice versa. So we all got to have that friend that takes you out of that edge. We kind of get comfortable in a box and in what we think the world expects of us. And stepping out of that box is so important, because we get to learn more about ourselves. I learned I get seasick on a piece of silk. Who knew? And it's funny, I was supposed to go last week, and something happened. I had to switch it till this week. And it's a good thing, because the teacher who taught that class last week, she loves spinning. So I would not have done very well. So it's really good as people for us to keep learning. We are not meant to just stay in a little box of, I get up, I go to work, I come home. We got to step out of that comfort zone. So this is a great way to have little new beginnings. Will I ever go do these things again? I don't know. I guess my friend may talk me into pole dancing again. I don't know. I will get one of those bracelets for seasickness before I try the other one again. But I would do it again. Would I go axe throwing again? Absolutely. So it's just learning something new about yourself. So sometimes new beginnings can be really fun, and it can be an adventure that's an hour. Sometimes it is an adventure that is much more than that. Sometimes new beginnings get forced on us. Maybe a friend disappears, just says, don't want to be a friend anymore, for whatever reason. People are funny, aren't they? I've had some very bizarre reasons I've lost friends. And I tend to get myself in trouble by telling the truth. People don't like to hear it. And the healer in me tries to find gentle ways to tell people the truth, especially when they ask me. So, I'm not going to be mean to anybody, but if you ask me a question, I'm going to tell you the truth, because that's my integrity. And I'm not going to sugarcoat something. I'll try to tell you something gently, but I'm not just going to go, oh yeah, everything's great, and everything's not. And I figure if somebody asks, then they want to know, because that's kind of how I tick. I'm not going to ask a question that I don't want the answer to. Although it's funny, a lot of people do. So I've seen this over and over again with my color stuff. I'll be at a party or an event or something like that, And people will start asking me questions about my color and how I do it. And I was like, oh, well, everybody has a color. And what does that mean? And usually when it's a big group and they start asking me questions like that, there's usually one person who they'll say, so what's my color? And then energetically, I feel these big iron gates come in. And I'm like, oh, you can't look at me. You can't see me. Da, 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 da. And I'm like, don't ask if you don't want me to know, because then I got to work from my head. And what I do when people ask me, what is my color, is I'm really tuning into their energy and feeling what is that color. And I've had that happen a couple times. And oh, this one girl, it was just bam, you can't see me. I'm like, okay. And I don't have any clue what she didn't want me to see. Was she hiding secrets? I have no idea. None of my business. I've always said my next marketing class is going to become psychic because I think that would really help. And even still, you can't go into somebody's head who won't let you. I mean, responsibly, you can't just go into somebody in healing and not without their permission. So if somebody's got this guard up, I can't go in, I can't see anything. And it's none of my business. If they don't want me to see, they don't want me to see. So then I'm just stuck with, okay, I got to work from my head, which I can do. It's just the information's not as clean. Because there's things that with the colors, there's things in facial features and colors and the way people walk, the way people carry themselves, all these things come into play, which I'm looking at when somebody asks me, what's my color? But there's also an energy that I'm feeling too. I'm like, okay, so is what I'm seeing also what I'm feeling? So if there's a symbiosis there between what I'm feeling and what I'm seeing, then I know I'm right. But if you do this to me, then I only can go based on what I'm seeing. I don't get to do my internal check as to whether or not the feeling is the same. So and I think some people are just really truly afraid to be seen for who they really are. And they're trying to be the perfect this or the perfect that. I'm for their job, for their family, could be a spouse, could be for their kids, could be for their parents. I mean, my parents are gone, but even I'm an adult, you're always their baby, right? As long as they're alive, you're always their baby. And there's still an element of we do what we do to be a good kid, right? I mean, at a certain point, it doesn't matter as much, but there's still elements of, these are the expectations of me as my role in the family. So I'm the eldest child in my family. And when my parents were gone, there were still expectations of what I'm supposed to be as an eldest child and how I'm supposed to treat the younger ones and what I'm supposed to do for them, because there was some things that needed to be dealt with. And it is still my job now as oldest, as matriarch, to make sure that my younger siblings have what they need. So we are raised in these roles, and it's weird when they get stripped. A lot of my roles in that department have changed tremendously. And ultimately, it's for the better for everybody. And when it first happened, it was so weird to feel that change. in who I was. And I had to rediscover what my role as matriarch was going to look like. There were expectations that my parents had. There's expectations that my siblings had. There's expectations that I had. And here were all these little expectations. And I had to sit there and say, this one I like. This one, I don't have to take this one on. And some of those decisions were made for me by some circumstances that happened. And it was really interesting changing out who I was, always being the older sister. That role completely changed. Trying to kind of go back a little bit and relive a little bit what was that was like, and I don't know quite how to describe it. There's an element of, oh, okay, maybe this is good. It's kind of a silly example, but I think it's a good simile. So we're making a pizza, and there's tons of ingredients you could put on the pizza, right? We used to have Iron Chef night with my niece and nephew, and we'd go to the grocery store and go buy whatever you want. It'd sometimes be girls against the boys. Sometimes it'd be kids against the adults. And I just let them go shopping and, okay, go buy whatever you want to do for your pizza. And they had a blast with it. So society may say, okay, you got to put pepperoni on your pizza. Well, maybe you want to put corn on your pizza. Now, a lot of people might say, well, corn on your pizza? That's really weird. Now, in England, that's kind of a normal thing. They'll do corn and tuna. Now, here we would never have corn and tuna, but corn and tuna is a normal thing over there. Also, we'll do corn and onion. Another thing we'd never even think about here. My favorite little pizza place, they do caramelized onion and corn. Oh, man, is it good. So sometimes you can think of a solution of what you want to put on this pizza that may be outside the realm of the normal. It doesn't have to be pepperoni or sausage or bell pepper, or maybe you want to put a bunch of things on there. But you got to find out what is going to work for you. And how many ingredients do you need? And sometimes siblings, well, they can be difficult. If there's a sibling that's really difficult, it's okay. You don't have to be mommy or daddy. You don't have to take that on. It was the parents' decision. I mean, sometimes parents can be overwhelmingly they can help too much. And when they're gone, the sibling doesn't have to take that on. So it's really about looking about, what do you want your pizza to look like? What do you want it to taste like? You get to create that pizza. So we're recreating who we are in this new family. All right. I have, so I hope that helps. I hope that
definitely helped. I'm back again and all in that space. And you were bringing up all kinds of interesting things. One, there is a axe throwing place here in Durham. I have yet to
Yeah,
go there, but I do know that
so
there
much
is an axe
fun.
playing place here in Durham, and I have been contemplating going there because I want to say it's a bar and it's actually in our downtown area and all in that space. So it's been here for
They
a
have
while, and I've been
alcohol and axes. Now, the place I went to didn't have any alcohol, but they have alcohol and axes.
they have alcohol and access, so it
Wow, I
is
would not want
a
to be their insurance.
yes, that's what I was wondering about because I hear what you're saying about it being a fun activity and all in that space, but I'm going like, wait a minute, you're throwing an axe and it's also a bar and everything. So I was going like, yeah, I'm a little bit worried as to what the aim factor might be and all in that. But the place is literally called Urban Axis. That is the name of the place, and that is the Axoin location. And definitely there is paid street parking and all along those lines, and they do have walk-ins and all in that space. So it is a
Well,
literally an
that
Axoin bar.
I will. So the place I went to, it was kind of like bowling. Everybody had
Mhm.
their own lane, and there was walls between. So it was pretty, and they give you safety. You know, they're very big on safety and teaching you what to do, so that there aren't any accidents. Um, I would imagine that the bar part and the axe throwing part are separate. I can't imagine that they can.
They are definitely separated. Apparently, they're asking people to book for Father's Day because they are saying bullseye and bruise. That is
I
what they
love
have got
it.
going.
I love it.
Yeah, so they have got the bullseyes and bruise, and apparently this particular franchise has got offices in Austin, Texas, Baltimore, Boston, Cincinnati, and Durham. So I think Durham might have been one of the latter ones that just recently opened and all in that space. But yeah, they have also done acts of kindness where they gave some donations and some things of that nature, and they're also used for corporations and celebrations and all in that space. So definitely they could mix up the drinks and everything else. But yeah, that is something that you were talking. I was remembering, and you also mentioned the Notion, and they are open to anybody's watching and hearing this and everything. And they are open Tuesdays and Fridays between 5 and 10, and Saturdays and Sunday. Saturdays 2 to 10, and Sunday is 11 to 8. And it is a licensed venue serving beer, wine, and cider. No
And
hard
how much
liquor.
do you
You
get for
can
the
bring
price?
your own food, and catering is available. And it is a 21 plus facility, so all persons must be 21 plus with a valid photo ID to enter and throw. And they are a cashless facility, and they do accept debit or credit cards. But yeah, that is what is going on in that particular place here and everything. So you can actually go, and maybe I'll go. As you said, you had fun. I have walked in there, I think, once to try to find out if they were going to approve of an event that was taking place in their general area, because sometimes I have to go to organizations to make sure that they are um, good with whatever the event is. And I think that's the one time that I walked in there. I could be wrong, but for some reason that is coming to my mind and everything. But yeah, there is definitely, and it looks like I'm looking at a picture and everything. As a matter of fact, I should bring that up just so folks can see what it looks like, at least in the Durham one and everything in that space. So I'll bring up the picture on their site
It's
and all in that space.
surprisingly easy to throw. So they gave us stars that we
Mhm.
could throw. So that's kind of like the ninja stars.
Right.
And then we had they were like a deck of cards, but this they were made out of metal, and you could throw those. Those were really light. So it's not like you're throwing a big heavy axe necessarily. And they do have three different styles. Yep, that's kind of what mine look like.
Mhm.
And so it's relatively safe. I mean, if somebody goes really rogue, you're gonna be in trouble, but it's relatively safe. And there's three different weights of axes that you can throw, so you can find which one works. So somebody who's a big, strong, he might want the heavier weight. Somebody like me, I was more kind of a medium weight, and somebody who doesn't have, may enjoy the lighter weight. So it just depends on what you find gives you the best spin on it.
Yeah.
It
And
really,
yep, and you mentioned something else that you did as well. I did not do it, even though I did attend an event, and I'll tell you why I attended the event. It was uh, before the pandemic and all along those lines. But you had mentioned that you had done some of the circus acts and all in that space, and there is a group here once again in the area, but this one is not in my hometown of Durham. It's actually in Raleigh. So we do have Cirque du Val, which is a aerial and circus community in that area in downtown Raleigh. And I want to say it was about 4 or 5 years ago. I don't often do this, but on occasion, I think I've done it maybe 2 or 3 times. I think I've told you before that I have done DJ work, but it is usually as a radio announcer and a radio DJ. But there have been at least a couple of times, and maybe there'll be more times in the near future where I have done DJing for an event. So Circus of All was having a event in Raleigh, and they needed a DJ, and their DJs that they usually had were not available. So I actually provided some music for a party at their location. And I think that was about roughly 4 or 5 years ago and all in that space. But they do a lot of that aerial stuff that you were saying that you got dizzy and a little bit not that well with some of it, but they do aerial art, circus fitness, or cirque fitness as they call it. They have youth programs and a number of other things that they are part of. And they also do performances, because I think they performed at a couple of the festivals that I am part of as well. So they do a
So much
lot
fun.
in the community.
So much fun.
Oh yeah, it looked like it was fun. Like I said, I was glad to do the DJing, and they were literally doing some of the routines while I was playing the music. And I think in that particular case, I might have had some of the blues music that I enjoyed, but it was mostly rock and R&B, as I recall, that I was playing and everything. But it seemed like it was a real good time. The folks were there were having fun, and I've seen them at some of the street festivals as well. So they oftentimes do some amazing work there in that space. And like you said, it's just amazing watching the folks and seeing the various acts that they do and all in that space. So
And it opens up so many possibilities that we don't think about. I mean, who'd have thought that? Okay, you see some guy on TV maybe climbing a rope or doing something like that, but usually that's like, oh, I can never do that. And it was really amazing how much I could do. It's just knowing how. And it's not something that, not something that happens in my daily life, right?
It's not something that happens in the daily life. I was actually going to bring up some of the pictures of the fine folks at Circus of All.
Yes, so much fun.
Yep.
Now, see, I didn't go that. We didn't do the spins like that. We just did some climbing, and we did a little bit of work on the ropes, but that's advanced stuff.
Oh yeah.
It's so cool.
Yeah. Yep, that's some of the images of some of the things that they have done. And like I said, I was literally down there DJing at that particular location. I think I was off to the side of where one of those pictures is, and just providing the music while they were going up on those particular ropes and all in that space. So yes, this is some of the work that they do on a regular basis. And like I said, they even do some circus performances as well. But yep, you can even hire them for your events and all in that space. And they do offer classes.
Do you know what vol means?
I'm not sure what vol means. That's a good question. I'd have to look up their website.
No worries.
No, because I know it's circus. Well, that's a good question. Let's find out if I can find out. And then the last thing you mentioned the pole stuff and the pole dancing, and I've never done that either. I've never had a significant other that have done it that I am aware of, and maybe they did it either before or after me. But I did have a friend of mine that used to have regular house parties at his apartment complex, and literally in the apartment complex, at least one of them was one of those poles. So that became part of the routine with King Kinsey. I think that was Carl Kenny, King Kenny. I think that was one of the things that King Kenny and somebody else were doing. They would have these parties, and I do remember that one of the parties there was literally a pole in the middle, and some of the ladies, and I think some of the guys enjoying trying to do some amateur version of it.
It's fun to just spin on it. I mean, you don't have to know what you're doing. Right. It's just fun to spin on it.
Right.
But it's kind of like I got to do indoor skydiving. Have you heard of that?
I had not heard of that.
Oh, it's so much fun. So jumping out of a plane, I don't know, but it's indoor skydiving, and there's a big fan in the floor, and they turn it on and it blows you up, and it's like you jumped out of a plane, but you don't have to have the falling. And so the pole dancing is very similar in that it's all your muscles at play. with indoor skydiving, it's so interesting because your arms, your whole body is like a steering wheel. So if you move an arm, you know, in or out, then you're going to turn. If you move them up front, then they're going to turn. So it's very intense acrobat, and every single muscle matters
Oh,
in
wow.
what you do. And so they had somebody that would, kind of keep us going, and tell us what to do. And they would, they were there to catch us. And not going to fall, but he was there to direct us and steer us or help steer us a little bit. That was so much fun.
That's
Highly,
interesting.
highly recommend that.
Well, I might try that because some of the things that you were talking about, like I know there was a ex that has at least gone skydiving once. They might have tried it twice since we broke up many years ago and everything. But I do remember that they were always trying to talk me into going skydiving, and I was perfectly fine with being on the ground because I'm always afraid of what might happen wrong if you pull the wrong latch and everything. But ironically, I've always said for years that I would like to try. Hang gliding, which is equally as dangerous
Oh,
and everything in that
hang
space.
gliding looks fun. I
And
haven't done that yet.
yeah, and I've also said that I might not try hot air balloons, even though I haven't tried either one of the hang gliding or the hot air balloons, but the skydiving, because that's just way up there, and the fall seemed like it would be perilous and all in that space that I wasn't feeling as comfortable with as I probably could have and everything. And then my younger brother, actually, when he was, I want to say he was in his college ages, so he might have been in his early 20s or maybe even his late teens, he actually did bungee jumping. And I could never figure out the purpose of bungee jumping because it just seemed like you were doing a lot of bouncing around for no apparent good reason. But there are folks that have enjoyed it and have enjoyed it. I think he enjoyed it the one or two times he tried it. And I've thought about going canoeing, but I haven't done that yet either, even though that seems like that can be fun, or
I've done
whitewater.
kayaking. Kayaking is a lot of fun. I've done hot air ballooning. That was great. I've done what's it called? Parasailing. That
Mhm.
was a lot of fun.
Okay.
That it's you're kind of sitting up there really high, and that was neat. The hot air ballooning and parasailing are both very tame.
That's what I was thinking.
They're very tame. But the indoor skydiving, I loved that.
Yeah.
That was great.
And indoor skydiving would seem like it would be a lot more safer than the actual physical skydiving. Have you ever tried? Because there is a festival here, and what I'm going to mention used to be popular. I don't think they were there last year, if I remember correctly. And they'll be coming up in about a month and a half and all in that space. But we have a big 4th of July event called the Eno Festival. And one of the attractions at the Eno Festival, as well as at other festivals, was kind of stationary rock climbing. So it's not like you're actually doing the rock climbing that you would do if you were going to climb a mountain or something like that, but it's like a rock climbing station that you can climb the rocks. And the kids were really enjoying that, but I saw some adults that were enjoying it as well. So I was wondering if you had ever done any of those rock climbing places, either at a rock climbing location, or there's also a location here that does trampoline bouncing. And I was wondering if you had ever done any of that either.
I've done the trampoline. When I was a kid, we had a place that had trampoline
Mhm.
nearby, and I did that a lot. I haven't done the newfangled ones where they've got a lot of other stuff. I haven't
Right.
done those. When I was a kid, there was actually a hole in the ground that you had to go over, and you had to be careful. And
Mhm.
I mean, nowadays that would never pass. But so I haven't done the rock climbing very much. That hasn't. I don't know, I just haven't been in the right place. And I guess I haven't sought it out. I would do it. I think it looks fun. I have actually climbed a big rock,
Okay.
not quite to the extent of that, but I went on a trip. Uh, we climbed to the top of Dinky Dome, and
Oh,
Dome is not dinky, but it is the southern part of Yosemite. So it's a cousin to, oh, what's the dome in Yosemite?
mm,
I don't know. Anyway, it's a cousin to another
that particular dome.
another one. Yeah, I don't know. So it's And I could not have done it by myself at all. I was with a group and I was with some people that we had mixed skills, but there was somebody who was an expert in rock climbing and hiking, and we had a couple experts in it actually. And without them, I would not have been able to do it. But that was definitely one of those things I would have never even tried by myself. I wouldn't have even thought about it because
Well, that's one of the things I was going to ask you is whether it is in the social settings, whether it is because you mentioned the single status, and I definitely have that status as well, or whether it's in life in general. How important do you think it is for to go on these adventures with like-minded people? I know that we had a guest on one of our other shows, the Daily News Show, and she literally moved from um, Florida, I want to say it was, up to Black Mountains, North Carolina, to become a farmer after foregoing her medical career and all that because she was going to medical school and decided that medicine was not for her. So she bought some farmland up in Black Mountains and is pursuing the farm life. But she was also involved, I think until recently, with a group called Black Girls Camp. So she was definitely involved in that space of camping with fellow African American women, because a lot of times people don't think that minorities camp and all in that space, even though there are some folks that are into camping and skiing and a number of other things. But I was just wondering, how important do you think it is for people to be in those like-minded groups?
so now in this particular case, it was very important that somebody knew what to do.
Mhm.
We were not all like-minded, but somebody did know what to do, and that was really important because we would not have been able to do it without that knowledge.
Right.
I think that it is really important, whatever it is, to have a venue of like-minded people. So one of the things that I do is it's a with color, it's actually a wardrobing thing.
Mhm.
And the lady I learned from, she used to have season seminars.
Right.
So I would go to the autumn seminar, and there'd be a few other seasons that would be brave enough to come. And it was really amazing being in a group full of the same energy. So
Mhm.
it went beyond race or creed or likes or dislikes. It was, we really all, like, how we ticked was the same, because it wasn't like we had different politics, we had different, like there was a lot of other stuff that was different, but how we made decisions and just kind of our energy. And then we would do activities together and we'd go shopping together. And it was really nice because as an autumn, if you ask an autumn a question, they're going to tell you the truth.
Right.
And so, because we feel that that's the most honorable thing to do. If you ask us a question, you're wanting an answer. So looking at something like, what do you think of this? You're going to get a real answer. Whereas if I were to go with a summer who doesn't want to offend anybody, they're going to go, oh yeah, that's nice. And it's a different way of speaking. It's a different way of being, and so being in a group that was all the same energy was incredible. And I think that it's human nature to want to be around like-minded people, whatever that is. And we are many facets. It's like the pizza, right? It's not just one category. Maybe you go to church because in church you can enjoy being around like-minded people in that respect. Maybe you go to something that's a political party because it's a like-minded people in that respect. Maybe it's a sport game. We all love to go support our sports team, and everybody's rooting for the same thing. I went to a basketball game for the first time in my life a few months ago.
Oh, well.
And I was like, I don't want to go. And I have friends say, come on, Jeanette, come on. I'm like, okay, fine.
Who did you go watch?
And I've never enjoyed watching sports, ever. Have I enjoyed watching sports? I've gone to 3 football games in my life, okay? But the game, I have to say, was really good. The score kept changing, like seriously every other minute. It was crazy how fast it was changing.
No, basketball is definitely going to change like that. But do you remember which teams you were watching?
I have no idea.
No problem.
I can't tell you. They were
But
local teams. They were local teams, and so it was part of a networking group I belonged to that they got us tickets to go. And so it was funny. The next week, we're doing our little recap, and I said, "Oh, I had so much fun at the basketball game." And they asked me who won. I said, "The home, the away team." I'm like, "I don't know who they were. I don't care."
well, no, that's one of the things. There is a very popular team here in North Carolina. It's the minor league baseball team. There was actually a whole movie made about them in a partially fictional way, even though part of the story was based on fact, called the Durham Bulls. And of course, many people know the movie Bull Durham and everything. And that being said, I haven't been to a game this year, but they just started this season. I don't think I went to one last year. So it's probably been about 2 or 3 years that I have been to a game. But the games are fun. I am not like you are with certain other sports. I'm not a overly big baseball fan. I mean, I know it's supposed to be considered America's pastime, and I'm not saying that it doesn't have some enjoyable moments, but sometimes it can have some boring moments as well. But one of the things about that baseball that game that you just mentioned is it is also very much of a social atmosphere. So a lot of
Yeah.
times there are contests that actually my friend Jatovi helps run some of those contests, does the announcing on those contests on the field, but there's also you can walk around and you run into friends and acquaintances. So a lot of times you are not necessarily paying attention to the game. And I have been there with groups. I went with a church that used to meet at Hayti, so we were having drinks and food and conversation, and might look and see if somebody hit a home run or what the score was from time to time. But it was a sense of camaraderie, similar to that group that you went with, and everything was that sense of camaraderie.
But I mean, we are pack animals.
Mhm.
That's why COVID was so hard.
Yeah.
And I think that it is really important for us to find that pack, and we're going to have a bunch of different packs. Not
Okay.
one pack is going to fit all of who we need. So somebody who likes to go camping, I don't really have a pack that likes to go camping, but I have gone by myself. I'm not afraid to go by myself. It's more fun to go with somebody for sure.
Yeah, I'm
But
not a big camping person. Part of that is because of even though I am have sympathy and love for animals, and some people would even say animal empathic abilities and everything. Don't not a big fan of animals that bite and bug you and things of that nature. But I have gone on a few select hikes with either friends or non-friends and tried to put on the right amount of things to deal with that. And like I said before, that Festival, and I'll probably be emceeing that for, we're probably going on 20 or 25 years that I've emceed that particular festival and everything. And definitely I enjoy the MC work, and I enjoy being out there in that outside environment and seeing the friends of mine. And it's definitely at a state park, but it is definitely out there in the middle. And I even enjoy seeing some of the animals because the herpetology group will be there. So you might see some snakes and turtles and other reptiles and amphibians that are out there, and the different nonprofits and everything. So it is always a fun time at that. I can't think of a time that I did not enjoy myself, even when it was blazingly hot, because it is in the middle with the early part of July. So there have been times that it's like 100 degrees, but that's why I like being in MC, because I get to go to the food court area and enjoy the watermelon and the other food, including the air conditioning and all in that space. So I am smart enough to know how to avoid the heat if it is too hot.
well, but in answer to your question, I think it is normal to want to have people. Like my friend who we take each other out of our comfort zone. That this is our goal to okay, what can we do different? How do we step out? Would we do these things by ourselves? Probably not, but we'll do them together, and just having that support. I mean, I think that that's human nature to want to be around like-minded people in whatever that means for you. And so that's why we seek out different.
Well, I have a like-minded group for you if you ever get a chance to visit. I know you
Yeah.
visited South Carolina, but there is a group that meets. They will not be at Hayti this coming month, meaning the month of June. They'll be back in July, but they were there this past weekend and everything. But it is primarily African American cultures, but they are not opposed to people of other cultures coming there as well. But it is a group of women that come because they are part of a quilt circle. So they do a quilt circle meeting there, and I think that you would probably enjoy it because they have whole conversations. Sometimes they bring their quilts and they design their quilts so you're into colors. So I think that you would.
I've done
not-
quilting. I've
Yeah.
done quilting and I love it. And I went to, oh, I'm going to get the name wrong, Paducah.
Mhm.
And that's where the main quilt museum, the Quilting Society Museum is.
Yeah.
And yeah, I've actually done quilting. I really enjoy it. There's something, it's very similar to design work because
Yeah.
you're taking all these pieces and you're putting it together to create this beautiful quilt. And there's something really amazing about the magic of it all coming together that's very close to design work. So my threading a needle is not as easy as it used to be, but I really do enjoy quilting.
No,
It's
and quilting is fun. It's a lot of fun, and like I said, one of the people that comes regularly. I don't think she drags her husband to it ever, but Willa Brigham is a friend of mine, but she is also a storyteller. So she does a whole story around hats and a number of other things, and she's a children's storyteller. But that is one of the things that she does is quilting. And one of my mom's good friends is I would argue probably one of her best friends is a member of that quilting circle as well. So it's good seeing these women of different backgrounds that are coming there and sharing their quilts, sharing their love of that particular pastime. And
that's the thing. Quilting is a storytelling.
it is totally.
Each of the patterns means something, and then each, a lot of times it's made with clothes or something, but you're picking out the fabrics for a reason if you're using new fabrics. And what's really wonderful is to get these women together from all different experiences, but they're there because they all love quilting, and every woman has a story to tell. Every quilt has a story to tell, and that's really, I think, so empowering. Is we all have this beautiful story. We've all had challenges, we've all fought battles, and each one of us is like a piece of that quilt. And to have a space where you get to tell that story and share it, and I think women are better at this than men. And part of it is our nature. We enjoy the story maybe more so than men, but to have that place to support each other. And that's why the quilting circles in the 1800s, and everybody get together and they'd put a quilt together. But it wasn't just we're putting a quilt together, it was sharing their stories. It's so beautiful and magical.
Yeah, and I agree. And definitely, sometimes those groups can also have their politics as well. And sometimes that can be disruptive. So sometimes you have to know where you are in those situations and not let those politics interfere as well.
Always somebody with an ego, and that's not what it's about. That's not what a quilting square is about. It's about just being able to tell the story. And
I agree with you. And the last thing I was going to mention is the things that you mentioned, because I was listening the entire time. And this one I mentioned in the chat and everything. You mentioned the fun you had making those pizzas and those homemade pizzas with your relatives. I think it was your nieces and nephews, and all in that space. And I was thinking that when I ordered a pizza, whether it is a pizza from a store or if I'm dealing with somebody that's making a homemade pizza, it is usually one thing that is a requirement in my part and everything, because I am a fan of olives. So there are certain things that I will want in my food. Like if I have a salad, there's probably a good chance that I'm going to make sure that it's got cucumbers in it, and probably this item that I also like on the pizza. So I am definitely a fan of the olives. They can be black or green. I don't really have a preference in that regard, but I do like olives in my pizza. So that's what I was writing in the chat. I was like, yes, I could definitely do with it. Homemade pizza, maybe even today, but it needs to have some olives on it.
That's awesome. That's awesome. I have to admit, I love my caramelized onions and corn. So it's a little unusual. Most people are like, huh? They haven't even heard of putting corn. When I came back from England, I spent 6 months in England when I was in college. And people are like, you put tuna on pizza? And I'm like, it's really good. and corn on pizza. I'm like, "Oh, it's really good." I mean, it's something I had to make. No, you couldn't order it in a restaurant.
I mean, think
But
about the idioms and the ways
good.
that,
People thought I was crazy. I didn't care.
and people think that people in the South are crazy when we decide to put, because some people will be like, you're ruining a perfectly good tomato, a perfectly good celery, and definitely a perfectly good watermelon. But if you know something of the Southern culture, we are quick to put salt on all three of those items, even though salt does have its negative aspects as well in terms of its part of our diet. But definitely we are quick to put that on those particular items and everything. And some people will be like, you're ruining a perfectly good vegetable and or fruit, and all in that space.
Do you know that salt is actually really, really, really important for your diet? But you don't want to get like the Morton's iodized salt.
Yeah.
You want to get natural salt. I'm not picking on Morton's, but you don't want to get the iodized salt. You want to get the natural salt, so like the Himalayan salt, because our bodies actually crave the salt, and it's really good for keeping the organs going. And this is one I've learned. So ladies, if your breasts get really sore, they actually need iodine. So you want to
Right.
take real iodine, and the salt can actually help. So, but if you're doing just regular salt, you want to get like the Himalayan salt. You want to get raw natural salt that has all of the things in there.
And I've heard the same thing about sugar, because some people are less fans of the processed sugar, but are bigger fans of brown sugar and the other kinds of sugars that exist. But then I've heard people that have complained about some of the aspects of brown sugar too. But I guess if you've got to deal with sugar, it's probably better to get the brown one than the processed white sugar.
Well, the brown sugar is just added molasses.
Mhm.
So it's I don't know that it's less processed. It just has molasses in it.
Okay.
But yeah, if you're going to do sugar, the less processed, the better. I mean, there's so much stuff. Oh my gosh. This is like a whole thing. We're not even going to get into, we don't have time for this today. But if you look at what some of those processed ingredients really are, I mean, go look at what natural flavors really means. Ew, ew, ew. Go look at what spices really means. Oh, it's just, ew. I can't even. It makes you just not want to eat that stuff at all. And you think natural flavors, well, that's okay. But when you see what natural flavors is, and when you see what spices, I remember as a kid reading the ingredients, and it would say something like ginger and nutmeg and spices. I'm like, wait, that doesn't make sense, because you just listed 3 spices and then you have this word spices there. So why aren't you listing out what that is? Then I found out what spices really is. I'm like, ew. So if you really start looking at what's in a lot of those processed ingredients, you're not going to want to eat any of them. And that's another show for another day.
That's another show, another time, because I've actually watched a couple of the documentaries about what goes into the making of our food diet, and if you let that get to your head and your mind too much, you may never want to eat anything ever again. So definitely there are some things that go into the process, and definitely we got to do better in the way we treat the food that we eat and all in that space. And we are very much of a fast food culture, but like you said, that's a whole nother story and a whole nother show and everything.
And
but
what's in the different dye colors? Oh yeah, it's there's some stuff in your food that if you knew you were eating it, you would never ever buy it. You just would throw up. Truly, you would throw up, because it should not be. There's stuff there that should never be used, period, and it should not be in food that we eat.
No, it shouldn't be in the food that we eat, but part of what the advertisers do is advertisers, and this comes back to one of your themes, are not exactly unaware of the importance of color. So there is a reason that some of the junk food is brightly colored and is there because they are appealing to our color senses. So they're done intentionally with some of the packaging and some of the ways that they put things out there, whether it's cereal, candies or even some of the quote unquote better foods.
Okay, so I'll give you a diet tip and then we'll close.
Okay.
So one of the things that they do to get you to eat more sugar is they use pink.
Mm-hmm.
So you go to the donut store, you go to the bakery. What color is the box?
The box at the store, it's usually
at the bakery, at the bakery,
it's a bright color. I can't remember if it's white or pink.
It's pink. You know why?
What?
Pink actually triggers that sugar craving, and you can't eat just one.
Nope.
And so if you've got a lot of pink in a room in your house and you find you're eating a lot,
mm-hmm.
change the paint color. It's easiest diet you'll ever do.
Wow.
Because then it won't stop. You'll stop craving the sugar.
Right. That makes a lot of sense.
That's the easiest diet plan ever. You don't have to work out. Just change the paint color.
Just change the paint color. Who knew? Now we know. The Color Whisperer has done it again, giving us some great information. We've had some great conversation about new beginnings and the fun things that you can do within those new beginnings and everything. So I think we're going to go out with something that both me and definitely Jeanette like, which is the Can Do Spices. So,
yay!
So as always, it's been a great conversation. Glad I could pop in and help with the conversation. But we're going to go out with some Can Do Spices.
You know how people love to enjoy food and don't understand how to flavor their food or how to replicate a meal? They're interested in supplements but don't know where to begin? Well, what I do is I take the guesswork out of enjoying flavor and wellness with my flavorful spice blends so that they can create delicious meals with healing benefits. Can Do Spice was created to help cooks at any level enjoy healing through food. Every spice blend was designed to give added health benefits of natural herbs. Every blend is complete. There's no need to add any additional spice for a delicious meal. Saving you time and money while adding supplements to your meals can be both tasty and fun. My earliest memories in the kitchen began with my father, Kenny Can Do Bond, so it was fitting that I would name this line after him. I have always looked to natural remedies to supplement the body, and I found myself hiding herbs and minerals in foods for my family. That's when it hit me. Everyone needs Can Do Spice. Everyone should be having this. It's an exclusive brand for cooks at any level who want to create flavorful dishes with healing benefits that can satisfy the body and soul. Add a little spice to your life. Give Can Do Spice a try.